For a very long time, E50M felt like an old toy that you no longer enjoy playing due to three main reasons. First, the tank was nerfed. Then 6.0 happened, which made every tank very accurate, resulted in armor being less effective because after 6.0, even I7 could snipe your hatch at range. Then the other tanks were buffed and some were buffed multiple times. So the tank was just obsolete. It didn't have capabilities to brawl frontally or capabilities to snipe due to bad camo. However, that has changed because tank received two significant buffs during last two seasons, and along with that, as part of Dark Realm season, we had skills consumable and equipment changes which resulted in gun handling being reduced, which means the gun handling is now relatively worse than what it was in the last update, which resulted in armor being better. So it received passively a buff to armor, and any tank that has armor is now strong because it's difficult to snipe your hatch by any tank at range, and even at mid range it's difficult. You have to aim your shots if you want to hit the weak spots, and if you're moving back and forth, it's not as easy as it used to be because there has been some significant changes to gun handling, and we'll go over it one by one. So let's start with the buff it received. As part of last season, the HP was buffed from 2050 to 2100. That's 50 more. I would like to see at least 2150 HP so it has the same HP as T95E6 because E50M is stronger and it has better armor, so I feel it should also have the highest HP. Then the terrain resistance were improved from 1.1, 1.3, 2.3 to 1, 1.2, 2.2, so 0.1 for each terrain. Chassis rotation speed from 36 degrees to 40 degrees, which is huge because E50M, as I mentioned earlier, has the armor or the capability to brawl, and faster rotation speed means you could angle quickly, resulting in bouncing more shots. And then the reload were improved from 9.4 to 8.7 seconds, and aim time from 2.1 to 2 seconds. However, the armor was still weak, and that's exactly what they did with this update. Improved turret armor from 230 to 250, turret cheeks from 80 to 150, and that is just huge because otherwise you angle slightly more, you just get penned because 80mm just was not strong enough. Besides that, they also added a little bit more armor on the turret between cheeks and bustle side, so 100mm as well as 80mm, but the first two changes, 230 to 250 and 80 to 150, significantly improve its survivability because it meant tier 8s, even with premium, the mediums or heavy couldn't reliably pen E50M, and even the tier 9 or tier 10 if they're using standard or APCR, which usually people prefer at range, you might bounce on E50M because it now has 250 and slight angle would make it 265 to 70. So better survivability along with every tank having worse gun handling as well. So what exactly changed with the gun handling? First, the big change, steady aim was removed, and steady aim was kind of bugged to begin with because it improved 10% base accuracy, it improved 10% run and gun, which is okay, and then it removed 18% snapshot accuracy. So that's all gone. Steady aim disappeared, poof, so everything is worse just by that skill gone. And other change, snapshot was reduced from 12% to 10%, the skill. Then bond leader as well as food bonus or active bonus went from 10% to 5%, which I think it's 2.2 per skill or consumable, so 4.4 in total to the gun handling. And besides that, they also changed the gun stabilizer, and it used to affect the overall accuracy of the gun, but now it only changes or affects your vehicle movement accuracy and turret accuracy by 20%, which it already did before, but previously it would increase overall gun accuracy. Now it affects accuracy during turret rotation and movement. So all this made the guns behave similar to or close to what they were 6.0, and anyone who played before 6.0, they remember you have to aim your shot. If you are in a heavy tank, you have to be up close. You couldn't snipe. Every tank couldn't be a sniper, and because of that, E50 or any tank with armor is just more relevant now. And this, you can see the hull was strong to begin with. I just pushed Waffle and blocked 2 shots, made him miss 2 shots, and now there's artillery. He's coming forward. The hull had decent to begin with, and bang, another bounce. And that's what I was talking about. The armor matters more now. The TDs or any tank, they take time to aim, and now E50M has better armor, so they have to aim longer. They would still struggle because the gun handling, it's some significant changes to gun handling, which is, I cannot stress it enough, that any tank with armor is strong. Any tank with armor received passive buff, and not only that, so E50 didn't have the strongest camo to begin with, but we also had camo changes, which means the camo net or improved concealment were reduced by 50%, so TD will only have 30% camo or active camo instead of 60, and mediums would have 20 meters, sorry, not 30%, 30 meters, and mediums would have 20 meters active camo instead of 40. And this tank, the camo was never a strong suit, and camo was also impacted by how they changed food and one leader, and of course the vision as well. Basically what it meant was if someone was moving, will get spotted sooner now, which means E50 when you're brawling, it never kind of made sense to use camo net with E50 to begin with. But now the combination of gun handling and worse camo meant E50 is stronger and enjoyable and is playable now. I'm not saying it's the best medium in the game. It has decent DPM close to 2700, but there are other tanks that have more decent DPM as well as better camo as well in their roles. Can E50 get a little bit more DPM buff? I would say just giving it a 420 alpha so that it has the same alpha as other guns. Leaving the reload the same would be enough. However, they have to be careful, which they are with any medium tank. There's another encounter with the waffle. He aimed. So this is where the chase's rotation speed coming in. Bounce the second shot. He's trying to aim. I'm moving, dancing. E50M dancing. He can't aim. He's panicking, and he bounced again. And that's what I was talking about. The armor is much more relevant now than it was before this update. And all of this little bit helps. The tank, as I said, is enjoyable now. It's decent. You won't feel like a liability when you're playing this tank. The worst thing for me to play at tier 10 is when I'm worse than a tier 9. When I'm not confident that I can win against the tier 9, that's when I don't enjoy playing the tier 10. But E50M is now enjoyable, playable, and you can dust it off. No, you don't have to keep it in the garage any longer just collecting dust. You can take it to the game and actually enjoy. And as I said, right, the three major changes has significantly improved the E50M gameplay, and it's also the only medium, to be honest, that can brawl. No other medium, yeah, they can peek and so, but E50M can side scrape. You can even bully like the tier 8 and 9 medium or in lightly armored tanks because the tank has ramming capabilities. It is faster, it is heavier, and you can do some serious ram damage if you run that ramming perk. Now moving on to our second game, there's the bat chat, easy shot, and what do you see there, by the way? So because every tank's gun handling was nerfed, which improved E50M, E50M is also one of that medium that has really good base accuracy. Its base accuracy, even the accuracy during movement, is very solid. It has 0.3 base accuracy. So while other tanks might struggle to fight or has to adjust with the bad gun handling, E50 does not suffer that much because it has really good gun handling. It does have a slightly longer aim time, but the bloom is very small no matter when you're stationary or moving, and the 0.3 base accuracy means when you fire, the shell stays in the circle or closer to the center, and you can hit the weak spots much more effectively. And it also does have a solid APCR of 270. Usually the APCR penetration is 1465. Of course, you can exclude Leopard and other tanks, or sorry, what I meant, most of the tanks, they have their penetration of 265, but E50M has 270. Of course, you're going to exclude the Leopard or the tanks that fire premium APCR, but for standard shells, E50, great base accuracy, great accuracy in general, and of course it got the other three changes that I mentioned, the buffs it received, and besides that, it also has a beautiful standard APCR round with a decent platform as well. So if you have to snipe, you do have the gun, you just don't have the platform or the concealment to snipe, but you can snipe. And even when you're fighting mid-range, you do have a decent gun handling, and you don't suffer as much as other tanks just because of the relative better gun handling. And the only thing I would like to see in A50M now is to just give it the 420 gun, and then it'll be solid. Like it can compete with any tank. Now it says 390, so a little bit obsolete, because you would not obsolete, little bit negative, because you're fighting everything that has 420 alpha or 440 alpha, which was the major buff last season to a lot of the tanks, and that's why E50 shouldn't stay behind in terms of alpha. Keep the reload the same, don't change anything else, and I would say 420 should be solid enough. And if not, we can see how it performs. But even now, E50 is much more enjoyable than it was, and you can see hatch penning those tanks. Look at the bloom. Look at that bloom. That is some serious accuracy. 2500 damage so far. And I just hit exactly where I aim. Good at close range. If you compare medium, right? It's the best at close range for a medium or mid range. And solid at range as well, as long as you can stay concealed or park yourself behind the bushes. There's another thing that they changed, the muffle shot. So if you're behind a bush, you essentially don't get spotted. And you can try that with E50M as well. I'm mainly running the heavy tech build for my E50M, not running any concealment perks, as it doesn't have the great camo to begin with, and with all the camo nerfs, making camo net or using improved concealment is just not worth it anymore. So I play without camo, and of course, as I said, I can spot people much more effectively now after the changes, or anyone can, which just as a result suits the E50M playstyle more. So not only can they stay undetected and shoot me from distance, even when they do try to shoot me, the gun doesn't behave as well as it used to be. And all in all, that is a great recipe to make E50M relevant again. And you can try different setup as well, because we do have a lot of different equipment and crew skills which they have now added as a part of new season, and you can play around with it and see what suits your playstyle. But do let me know in comments, have you played the E50M this season? Do you own the E50M and just no longer play it, or you were just not grinding it because it was not that good? And what do you think about the tank now? Do you feel the same as we? Do you think the tank is enjoyable? Do you think you feel competitive? Meanwhile, I'm getting deleted. As I praised the changes in camo, I just got penned multiple times. I did back up, parked in an awkward spot. There were two tanks that were shooting me and penned me multiple times. I was just parked sideways, making it just too easy for them to pen me. But now they are spotted, and I can return a little bit of the favor. Penning the KPZ, he's going back, got lucky. And then there's a T95 at a little bit of awkward spot for me because I don't have shots at him. Luckily, I am still 2-shot for most of the tanks, as I am running armor angling, which just results in me having more armor. Another thing, besides the armor, now we have 4 equipment slots. If you are light or medium or TD, you might use silent driving because that's now equipment. But for E50 or more heavies, because you don't run any of the camo perks silent driving, you basically get essentially a free equipment slot, and you could put anything you want, and that's as a buff. Whereas the sneaky tanks, for them the 4th equipment slot is not really a bonus because they have to run silent driving to that slot. But you don't have to, or none of the heavy tanks have to, or of course the light tanks don't have to either because they get silent driving automatically. But for those mediums and TDs, they don't really have 4 slots. They have still the 3 slots if they have to get the same efficiency or the same level you want the tank to be, or closer. But E50M, as I said, because you have armor, you don't rely on camo, you're not impacted by that, by them changing the silent driving from skill to an equipment. And you get an extra slot, just makes this tank even more strong for the role it's supposed to be. So 6 versus 4, there's a Yak Panther. I did block a little bit here, but did get exposed. But in this game, you saw how you can accurately hit targets at range. Last game it was more up close, bounce few shots, and this one we were playing mid-range, do hit some nice shots, nice hatches. And then of course another thing, I am running on this tank, I'm not running the camo, but I'm running the capability where I get unspotted a little bit sooner, and or by 3 seconds, which is radio jamming, and I keep that opponent spotting for 3 more seconds by comms technician. So if opponent isn't running the skill, the 2 skills that I'm running, essentially I'll get unspotted after 7 seconds and they'll get unspotted after 13 seconds after I break the line of sight. So that's another decent change that you can use to your advantage. I will release the guide to the new skills and equipment that you can use on your tanks, or the one that I'm using, and you might find it usable or helpful, or you might just find it awful and can ignore it. But I will have a video on that soon, and let me know in the comments. Do you even want me to make a video, or if no one's interested, I don't have to. But I did see some comments where people showed interest, so we'll have that shortly as well. And as I said, E50M, I do find it enjoyable as well. The tank was a special place for me because it was the first tank I had my 10k in, very long time ago, and also the tank which kind of kicked off my streaming or YouTubing career. Of course, it's World of Tanks. No one really is a YouTuber, but in a little community with a little baby channel, this tank played a huge role. So that's it for this video. Do let me know in the comments what you think about the tank after the update. And I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. And if you haven't joined a regiment, make sure to check out our community regiment so you don't miss out on rewards.